So when it comes to Kaiser's introduction, I wouldn't expect nothing else from the egomaniac than to assert dominance in challenging Isagi. So even after asking him to get in the way of everything he holds dear and to try to crush it. So out of the gate, we know that Kaiser feels full of himself and thinks very highly of himself as the current number one on Bastard Munich. Now, will that come and bite him in the butt later on? We're going to see. Because in the first game, we see Kaiser perform was against FC Barca. And we find out quickly that Ness is the glue to the team. And with his passes and unlimited shot courses, he can generate to fool the defense, which allows Kaiser to get in the ideal position and shoot with his Kaiser impact. That absolutely shocks Isagi and gets him to start thinking about everything Kaiser does in his ideal playstyle. Starting with Kaiser alone is different for every other genius. He met up until this point. He's so different because with Kaiser, even having his own weapon, the fastest shooting ability in the entire league. So, after the Masters got subbed in later in the game, so was Isagi. And that desperation drove Isagi to force himself in 1v1 with the Masters, costing them a point. And we see Kaiser was there as well, but he was patiently waiting for an opening. With the biggest difference between the two he could have is that he joined in, but he chose not to. He could have joined in. He showed Isagi the gulf between their abilities and their game sense, because Kaiser and Isagi are on two different planes of existence, two different visions on the field entirely. So at this point, Isagi must reevaluate the situation and learn from the mistake he cost the team. Meanwhile, Kaiser hasn't made a single mistake so far, and not only that, he scored a goal, but is farming aura while doing it. So after the Bastard Munich won against FC Barca, we see that Kaiser is in the locker room, giving the Blue Lockers a chance to follow him instead of Isagi, with nobody choosing to follow him. So even now, after being challenged and told no, Kaiser confidence never wavers, and it actually excites him to crush and make them bow to him, with us seeing that Kaiser being a full-blown narcissist, okay? So, pretty much, in the next game, after that match with Manchine City, it started. It was pretty tough for Kaiser to get into the game fully, with Isagi stealing passes and Manchine City being no slouch, until Kaiser started, cranking up the heat. Started intercepting plays, passes, and finally started, being everywhere at once. That was a critical part to score, and he uses all that information to score with the ability being called metavision, which is constantly inputting new information from all sides of the field that leads to your very own goal, with the requirements being having a high football IQ and the ability to read the field to a disgusting degree. It was this ability combined with his Kaiser impact that makes him part of the new Gen 11. Now, that same ability Kaiser have, called the Metavision, Isagi just learned, and he's implementing it to get his own goal. But of course, it's never that easy. And right before Isagi could shoot his shot, none other than Kaiser showed up to steal the ball using the very same Metavision to get there, and even giving Isagi props for getting the same vision as him. And even though the shot course was dead, Isagi rather died than give up for Kaiser. So his shot failed and turned into an assist for Kunigami. Now that came in to steal the goal for himself. But shortly after, Kaiser was breaking down the play and pretty much saying Isagi is stupid for even trying to shoot, and he should have just bowed down to himself. With the real birth of the rivalry between Isagi and Kaiser began, with Isagi swearing to God that he would crush Kaiser. Maybe a little dramatic, but it is Isagi. So by the time the next play ended, Kaiser's frustration for Isagi's evolution was getting to a critical level. You know what I'm saying? So with Isagi now seeing the same things Kaiser does and ending up in the same critical points on the field as himself, with them both trying to stop Manchine City advance the same way, all while getting in each other's way. That's building more resentment, more frustration. So then the field isn't entirely Kaiser's field anymore. There's a new rising king, and his name is Isagi Yoichi. The same thing Kaiser asked for is what's coming to bite him in the butt, okay? But despite this, Isagi becoming a threat, At the very same time, a new threat arrived to challenge Kaiser. That is none other than Chris Prince, the world's number 2. Chris quickly picks up on how Kaiser is simply a bully that glorifies himself on easy kills and is scared of a real challenge. So, to combat this, Kaiser took his challenge head one-on-one. And nothing resulted from it because, besides showing a clear difference in the skill between the two, all in all, Kaiser only challenged him because he was backed into a corner and had no other choice. With Chris' statement, he didn't have the hunger or drive to face stronger people head on like Isagi. He only wanted to face weaker people than him, which kind of stunted his growth at that point. So, just proving my point even further, as Isagi is taking over the game with the help of Noel Noah, he's challenging any and everything that crosses his path, no matter the difficulty. Even Kaiser himself is powerless in the situation, with him believing himself to come across when he tried to block Isagi's goal, but Isagi's true goal was never to score it. It was to ruin Kaiser by any means. That is how petty these two are, okay? So after the win, Kaiser gives Isagi his flowers, okay? For outthinking him for this one time and challenging him to a striker test. The next match, with no Noel Noah's help, Isagi knew he wasn't as powerful as Kaiser, but he is powerful enough to be annoying and disruptive. But before he could reply, he passed out from exhaustion, okay? There's only so much, Yoichi-kun can take, you know what I'm saying? So it's really cool seeing Kaiser hold up Isagi. To me, it shows how Kaiser is holding up the very thing that will destroy him and all of his own ego and pride later on, okay? It's actually kind of poetic. But after he started reviewing the game, it started to sink in even deeper how much of a threat Isagi is and how his entire perception and expectations for him was wrong. Kaiser found so much bliss and joy in destroying the lives and egos of wannabe heroes and has-beens. We see, though, Kaiser is quickly seeing that Isagi is not a fool. He is in fact a genius that loves to overcome challenges and has an unbreakable will, more of akin to a ruler coming from Kaiser himself. And since his goal of joining the Neo-Egoist League was to boost his image, not to beat Noel Noah right now, so his full attention is on crushing Isagi, because right now Isagi is the face of Blue Lock. So by the time the Uber game started, Lorenzo isn't called the ace either for nothing. The first part of the game, Kaiser has been getting shut down, which allowed Isagi to score the first goal, putting pressure on their competition for goals. So when Kaiser hits this wall, we see his attitude and contempt he holds for Ness, belittling him along the process of trying to get his own goal. So he's eating his own teammates. He's badgering him. He's just being a complete narcissist in every way, shape, and form. Okay. So the next play was chaotic, okay? Nothing could be organized or planned. Isagi was scrambling and trying to find a path in this chaos. But Kaiser was able to shine through Lorenzo. He was finally able to not focus on Kaiser all the time, which allowed him to score one of the coolest goals he scored so far. But to Kaiser, it wasn't even a goal he wanted to. It wasn't even a goal that he wanted to do, because the play started and ended with Isagi. So his pride was blown and his ego was crushed. To Kaiser, this was him just collecting scraps from an inferior player he hates. So we see that Kaiser overthinks everything. Kaiser takes everything to heart, okay? He takes everything as an insult if it isn't fully originated by him. And even worse, the score between him and Isagi is close. The next score wins. And now we got the Masters on the field. And with Isagi and Kaiser sharing the same vision, they collided with each other to prevent Uber from scoring. So they impromptu worked together to, prevent the enemy from scoring, which they did hate, in fact. But sharing the same vision wasn't enough, because Isagi and Hiyori chemical reaction. On top of that, Kaiser had to deal with a Lorenzo spawn camping my boy. So Kaiser had a valid crash out, taking a shot that had a low chance of success, which really tilted things in the favor of Isagi. Tilted so much, in fact, his link up with Hiyori won them the game from their impromptu chemical reaction that really caused Kaiser to crash out, only because of the fact Isagi scored more goals than him, even if it was once on the top of the fact that even he didn't have a chemical reaction. Kaiser's whole philosophy is falling apart, with him not even knowing his role anymore in the team. He wanted to dominate Blue Lock, but it was just a stepping stone for him to get to Noel Noah, and it turned out to be his worst nightmare. He provoked Isagi way back when. He purposely harassed and told him, yo, make my life a living hell and try. And man, did he eat those words, because this isn't the end of Kaiser by no means. This is actually the beginning. So, in Kaiser's backstory with Ness, we see this stoic, long-haired egoist that believes in the impossible and brings Ness from the pits of despair, only to use him as a reminder that he is worth worshiping, and even getting a blue rose tattoo to remember his horrible past, from not believing in anything to believing in everything is possible through him, with us even seeing him form a new weapon against Isagi. This man Kaiser has seen shocking himself. He's seen it's shocking what he's doing to himself. He's choking himself just to bring himself to the brink because he was so excited at destroying Isagi. Talk about trauma, guys. This man is choking himself because he is so excited at destroying Isagi and he has a new weapon. I mean, if that doesn't tell you the state of his mindset at this point, nothing will. So by the time we get to the PXG game, Kaiser is locked in and taking nothing from Shido, the hype beast himself. So even he knows he will get brownie points for taking down Kaiser, which doesn't, even phase Kaiser. The only thing on his mind is Isagi, 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 Isagi. It's like, dang, bro. That's the only thing on his mind. Same with Rin. So when the game started off hot, okay, with the first person to be clashed is Kaiser himself. It's by Shido. But as I stated earlier, Kaiser has no time for that foolishness and gets around him only for about 3 more interceptions to happen, starting the game off in a blaze of glory. Only for Kaiser to get the position again and shake a couple of defenders as soon as he found an opening. The number 1 striker, Ren Itoshi, steals the ball, causing Kaiser to become furious and shift his focus just a tad to run instead of beating Isagi. Okay? Now, this video is about Kaiser, but I gotta talk about Ren for a second. The way he just embarrassed Isagi and Kaiser by stopping their attempt to steal the ball from him and even trying to score under impossible conditions. Truly a masochist. Only for the shot to be stopped by Hiyori. So that's twice now Ren has embarrassed Kaiser. But don't worry, Kaiser's gonna get his get back. Don't worry. So this chapter, we're gonna have to call Kaiser Michael Stalker for the way he was tracking Isagi and even trying to stop this man from scoring. The hate goes that deep. The rivalry goes that deep. The ego goes that deep. Only for him to fail miserably, along with Ren, for our black-haired ego hero to score his first goal in the game with a new method. On top of that, so that with all that, Kaiser was crashing out alongside Ren. They both were screaming like they stumped their toes and their little brother was laughing at them. Now we both know how angry you'll get if someone inferior is laughing at you for your pain. Ooh, they was crashing out like that, okay? So at this point, Kaiser is not only desperate, but he's crashing out all the same. Now we see in a flashback, when he was training before the game, he came up with a new weapon called the Kaiser Impact Magnus to curve while in midair, but the ball needed to be stationary for it to work. But we know, as of now, Kaiser's crashing out. He's seeing red. He doesn't care about the conditions. When he tried the first attempt, he bricked the shot. And he started raging so much, we see nothing but white eyeballs and veins. So, after that, we see in Kaiser's backstory, he was raised under horrible conditions, getting beat by his drunk father every day because he hates his life and his wife is gone. The only thing to remember her that Kaiser has is a single blue rose and his name Michael, which means who is like God, which actually kind of makes sense because he does believe himself is God. As time goes by, Kaiser was saving up money and he didn't know what to do, but he came across a soccer ball that changed his life. The fact his ball didn't speak and was always there for him no matter how he abused it. He grew a bond to that soccer ball, for being the only thing he would love for since he saw himself as trash. One day, the cops framed him for a robbery, and his father crashed out, but Kaiser was having none of it. And when his father was going to destroy the soccer ball, something awakened in Kaiser, and he began to attack all the officers and his father, knocking them out with his insane leg strength and speed. And once he was locked up, none other than the soccer chairman gives him a lifeline to play soccer for him, for his freedom. So once he starts playing, it was a wrap. This man's ego soared, his work ethic soared, as well as taking on his father's philosophy of being a pure malice, but pouring that onto the soccer field, using his trauma to his benefit and others' detriment. But when we get back to the PXG game, he's still afraid of losing everything he worked for to Isagi and the world stage. He only ever picked opponents he could beat, but this time it backfired, and the only way to evolve is to go back, way back, to before his ego was formed, and start from zero to have any hope of evolving. Now, with all the pieces coming together, his play style changed. He's passing, and he's not tunnel vision anymore. All of that combined caused Kiora to pass to Kaiser, and it wasn't a normal pass. It had a backspin on it, which worked perfectly for Kaiser because the ball was finally stationary, and to Kaiser's luck, the conditions for his Magnus impact was set. At that very moment, Kaiser reflected on his life, all his losses and bleakness, and made a vow with his soccer ball to leave that place and to be loved one day. And with this single goal, this magnificent, perfect goal, by the one and only Micheal Kaiser, caused the world to love him. Kaiser himself loved being restricted, and we find out he's a world-style ego. He loves making impossible plays and having no option but to push forward. So to put it simply, Kaiser thrives under pressure, probably because his past was so traumatic. So at this point, Kaiser is fully locked in. He's fully locked in on destroying and stopping Ren's assault, and he's going toe-to-toe with the slobbering monster until he allows Ness to butt in and crash out on Ren, allowing the ball to be stolen from Ren. Now, after the aftermath of Ren scoring and fouling, Kaiser gets to get a free kick. And we find out that Noah only wants to use Kaiser for his own progression, and only cares about Kaiser if he keeps improving. So even now, Kaiser is being treated as a pawn during his evolution, but unlucky for Kaiser himself. When he shot the ball, none other than Loki himself blocked the shot, and mocking Kaiser in the process. But as the game continued, the game has become so intense, with shots being blocked and the clock ticking, that Isagi decided to team up with Kaiser so that they can actually win the game. It's their only option at this point, but they both agreed that either one of them can score when given the opportunity. So, by the time the game is in its final quarter, Ren is in his full destroyer mode and has come close to scoring a goal until Kaiser stopped him with physical force. Once again, his traumatic pass came in clutch to prevent his goal, with the tension being so thick the next goal wins. In the final seconds though, Ness had the ball, and he was so blind for his loyalty to Kaiser, he desperately wanted to pass to him. And since Isagi knew this, he mimicked Kaiser's movements to trick Ness into passing to him, which is a callback to the beginning of the NEL, when Isagi had a desire to move and play like Kaiser, and it paid off in this single play to win the game. So the aftermath, as Kaiser was pondering his loss, he realized he lost because of two reasons. One was because he had no hope in Ness evolving, and he's trying to adapt to the new Kaiser. He gave up on Ness, and Isagi didn't. And the second reason was that he had too much freedom. Teaming up with Isagi, he became weak as a result, since he's a restrictive type, ending their bout for now. Kaiser had to contemplate why he lost, You know, he leaned into Isagi's strength. Isagi is a freedom type player, and that freedom caused Kaiser to not think like he normally would. And then that combined with him underestimating Ness was his downfall. So later after the whole NEL, okay, we see during the U20 World Cup arc later on that Kaiser has evolved even further, scoring a 4-0, 3 goals, and a hat trick against Costa Rica. So as we can see, Kaiser's story is far from over. But until next time, guys, peace.